Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Teresa. I know I would normally be joined by Tia, but unfortunately she wasn't feeling well, and it's okay because we have a fairly light makeup news week. But a massive thank you to everyone who has tagged me in information this week. I hugely appreciate it, and I'll be showing your names on the screen right now. Everything that you do is so hugely appreciated. But let's get into the newness of the new makeup releases. And as I said, there isn't a lot in terms of like the number of brands, but what they're coming out with is actually a lot. The first thing is Louise, and they have been kind of gradually drip feeding us their new November collection that's launching on the 1st of November. Now it's very butterfly themed, and they've said like, oh, it's inspired by fairy tales, but for me, every time I'm looking at it, it just makes me think of Easter. There's a huge amount in it. One of the things is a large palette which consists of 45 pans. We saw that several weeks ago, so now we know when that's coming. Then, as if that wasn't enough, there's 5 smaller 10 pan palettes. They're sort of like stack-em-ups in a way, so it feels like a sort of an extension to that line. Then there's 3 blush, cream and powder palettes, so half is cream and then half is powder. Then there's 2 different body oils. There's 5 magic wand eyeliners, and I hear that they may be duochrome. It's hard to tell based upon the videos, but you never know. There's a 20-piece brush set, and there's also a setting spray. So let's get talking about the big palette first. I mean, we don't know what the prices are, but this is kind of interesting for this time of year. It's very pastel leaning, but I really appreciate the way that the colors are organized in those sort of columns. I personally quite enjoy that, you know, that you have the gradient a la Blend Bunny. I mean, everyone is kind of doing that now, except Blend Bunny these days, but there you go. There looks to be a nice mixture of shimmers in there. It seems it's a lot more matte heavy than necessarily shimmer heavy. It looks like the lighter shades have a slightly more kind of relevant part of shimmers, but it looks really nice. Do I think you could necessarily dupe this out with existing things in your P. Louise kind of collection? I feel like no, not entirely, particularly when it comes to the more pastel-y shades. I don't feel she's done a huge amount of those. I think for the deeper shades, yes, you probably could get not exact dupes, but something that's very close. So I think that is quite interesting. I don't know how much it's going to be. I would suspect it's going to be about like 40-ish euros. It's not going to be for me at the moment unless they like really put it on sale, but I can't justify getting it. But it is interesting. The thing that I find the most interesting are actually the 3 blush palettes. So there's like an orange one, there's a pinky one, and there's more of like a lilac-y mauvey one, and they're part cream and part powder, and they've even shown how they can kind of work together in the way that they've swatched them. I feel like maybe they could have edited those palettes down ever so slightly, particularly when looking at like the mauvey toned one, because the way that's swatched, there's a couple of the shades that look quite similar to each other. I feel like they could have kind of just changed that up a little bit, maybe brought it down to maybe a 10 pan or something like that. In saying that though, I think it is absolutely gorgeous, and I think it's very smart to kind of have that mix of cream and powder. I mean, Patrick Ta has been doing it for ages, so why not P. Louise? I kind of like that. Again, if this is like relatively affordable, I would definitely think about it. Not that I need it, but I think it's very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if on the day that they're releasing that they maybe do like a bundle deal with this. I mean, they've done it before with like say even their bronzers and their liquid blushes, that you have like a 3 for the price of whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like this. I really wouldn't. And no, I shouldn't get them. I shouldn't. It's very tempting though, very tempting, but I have to say I think they've done that quite well. And the next thing they have are these like shimmering body oils. Now, I was kind of wondering about this in my kind of shorts video that I did during the week as to how this was actually going to mix with makeup, or was it just going to be like body makeup, you know, on the décolletage and I don't know, wherever else it is that you would put these things. But the lovely Sue H, thank you so much, you're rather wonderful, had a little look. She managed to find some of the ingredients, and she basically said that it looks like it's something that would evaporate really quickly, so it probably wouldn't mess your makeup that much. I think that's really interesting. Sue, thank you so much. I love that you have that makeup knowledge. It genuinely pleases me. If I was to kind of choose between the two, I don't think you'll be that surprised that I'd kind of go for the green one. I think that's a little bit more interesting, but in all, pretty good. The one that I'm kind of a bit confused by are those sort of like 10 pan palettes. There's nothing wrong with the color stories. I actually think they're quite pretty. The yellow one in particular, because she hasn't done anything like that, I think that is worth talking about. And the green one, you could probably dupe out with like the Money Shot palette. The other three, however, I feel like you could dupe out with existing stack 'em ups or with existing palettes. So it felt a little bit redundant to me. All that being said, they're very, very pretty. And the purple toned palette kind of reminds me a little bit of the Jeffree Star Bloodlust palette, particularly when you're looking at that sort of like a black matte glittery shade. And there's something in like even that sort of pinky toned palette. The last shade looks almost duochromy. I think that's quite interesting because that is making me kind of look at it at a double take. But I know I don't necessarily need them. I do like the green palette, you know me. I think the blue one is the most kind of repetitive one that we have kind of seen already. But I mean, it's P. Louise, it's going to be decent quality. Then the thing that I'm also quite interested in are these magic wands. They're these sort of eyeliners and they're coming in 5 shades. Now there's some people that have been saying that these are multi-chrome or duochrome. However, based upon the video and the shots that I got, it was very hard to determine if that was actually the case. Now the issue here is because in the kind of video that they were taking, there was very harsh studio lights and those aren't exactly the most conducive to getting those sort of duochromy shades. So I'm kind of gonna reserve judgment. I'd like to know what their staying power is, because my favorite duochrome liners are actually from Shein. I know, who would have thought? And their staying power is actually bananas. I'd like to see how this would hold up. I can't see anything really replacing my Shein, but there you go. There's also a 20-piece brush set and oh mama, there's a lot in that. Now sometimes they do these like brush sets that are like crazy good value. Like even as it is right now, you can get like a brush set for like €52 on their site, which is not bad. I have quite a few of her brushes already and I gotta say they're actually pretty good quality. They wash well. I haven't had any major issue with them. I will say that they probably don't have the most unique shapes. They're a little bit like copy and paste across ones that you would see from other brands, but that's kind of to be expected. I don't hate it, but I don't need it. I know I don't, even though I have like a major brush problem, but quite interesting. And the very last thing that they actually have is this setting spray, and they did like a video kind of showing them putting on some of the eyeshadow, some of the larger palette, and then spraying with this and then rubbing and showing that it didn't really budge. I mean, fair enough. I'd like to see what the ingredients are on that. Like I'm assuming they'll probably have alcohol in there, but I'd like to see how high it is on the list, because if it's very, very high, it's not one I would necessarily use every single day. Just for me. I'm not telling you what to do, just for me. But I gotta say, I have found, like, for instance, their skincare, I have begrudgingly ended up really enjoying it and not expecting to enjoy it. So the only other thing I'll kind of say is that obviously with the budget box, I don't know if you guys want to see me do like an unboxing, because I get like the budget boxes. But with the budget box, they are doing a thing where this month, it's so hard to keep track of which month is which, but it will basically be their October box that I'll get sometime in November, and that will include apparently some brushes and one of those eyeshadow palettes, like the little mini ones. So I don't know if you guys want a little video on that, of an unboxing like I did before, but just keep that in mind. Maybe, you know, don't go rushing off and buying all of those 10 pan palettes if you are signed up for the budget box. It's just good thinking. But anyways, I did put this to you guys, and the larger palette did okay, 29% if you loved it, 12% said it depended on the price. The body oils actually did a lot better than I thought they would. Between 20 and 25% of you ended up loving it. The sort of cream powder blush palettes did okay. There was definitely like a favorite in terms of the shades. The orange one did the best, which I find really, really interesting. It seems that orange blush has not quite had its heyday yet. And the lowest one was actually the pink toned one, where 20% of you said that you loved it. And then the purpley one 27%, which is fair. Then the 10 pan palette, the blue one did very well. 45% of you loved it, while 12% said that it was too similar to the Stack 'em Ups. 42% loved the green tone one, but 8% said there was just too much stuff coming from this launch. 27% of you loved the pinky red toned one, while 12% said that it was unnecessary with some of her existing Stack 'em Ups. The purple tone palette, 45% of you loved it, so that's a really popular one, while 4% said that you did feel that some of these shades could dupe J-Star's Bloodlust. The yellow one also did very well. 36% loved it and 7% said that it was kind of interesting. Then in terms of those gel liners, 39% of you loved it and 26% said that it depended on the price. The brushes did okay. 22% said that you loved it. And then the setting spray, we weren't really that interested. Again, only 22% of you loved it. Then the next thing that we have to talk about is Lunar Beauty's Siren Sunset collection. This kind of came out of nowhere almost. Usually you see with brands that they kind of drip feed you with things and kind of go, oh, something's coming. But I was away from the internet for like a day or two, and in that period of time it was revealed, it was like announced, it was revealed, and then it was launched. So by the time I got back to the internet, it was like almost old news, and I was like, how did this happen that quickly? If you don't know, Lunar Beauty is Manny MUA's brand. It's relatively popular. I feel like it's not as popular as it was in Manny's heyday, but this is his Siren Sunset collection, so it's very mermaid themed, which, you know, stop trying to make mermaids happen, I guess. The palette itself is €53.95. There's 3 liquid lipsticks in the shades Sailor, Pink Pearl and Abyss. They're €17.95. You will save a bit if you go with the trio, because that's €41.95, and if you bundle the whole thing together, it's €83.95. Let's have a little chat about the eyeshadow palette first. There's something about this, and I said this in my previous video, that reminds me a little bit of Colourpop's Haunted Mansion. Now, in saying that, like, do I think they're the same quality? Absolutely not. Like, I mean, Lunar Beauty are very good in terms of their quality. I do rate them on that. I like how consistent they are. I think the packaging of that is very pretty, you know, that they're always bringing that lunar symbol in there. I like that he doesn't put himself on his packaging. I always find that really weird when influencers / brand owners do that. I absolutely abhor or absolutely hate the way that they've presented the swatches as little circles on the website. That drives me nuts. At least in Manny's own reveal video, he did kind of swatch them out so you could see the shifts a little bit more, and I gotta say that that kind of intrigues me a smidgen more than what's on the website. Now, as I said before in my previous video, I feel like Manny isn't as popular, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. Obviously, like the rise of TikTok, the continuing descent of YouTube, and yet I'm here. You can't get rid of me, Oz. But there's also the fact that he has quite publicly stood behind Colleen Ballinger and James Charles, both of which, if you don't know, not the most fantastic behavior, and I think just quite a few of his audience are kind of asking for him to kind of make a little bit of a stance on that. Now, for me, I get that it may be a bit difficult for him to do that. I mean, they're not so much friends as they are potentially colleagues, so I'm not going to judge people for what they do or don't do or what they buy or don't buy. It's literally none of my business, but it definitely makes me pause on it. It's kind of, I think, coloured the way that I'm looking at this. So for me, I didn't end up getting this, and I can't see myself actually getting it either. I feel like I could dupe out an awful lot of these shades from existing palettes, and I think if they didn't have that kind of like pop of that like bluey green, you know, the tealy, it's not quite a teal, I don't know what sort of a shade it is. If they didn't have that there, I think that's the only thing that's kind of tying it all together to make it that little bit more interesting. But for me, it's just not it. Now, I normally really enjoy his liquid lipsticks. I think they're really fabulous in terms of their longevity, in terms of their comfortability. They're probably one of my favorites on the market, and they came out with 3, but I gotta say that the way that they look in the component versus on the lips, particularly the first one, Sailor, it looks very different, because in the component it looks almost grey toned, but then on the lip there's a very pinky toned essence to it, and I feel like if it was more leaning towards the grey, I would be for sure intrigued, because it's quite an unusual shade. In saying that, I totally get how, you know, for some people when you put these particular shades on, it can depends upon the shade of your lips underneath and your own skin tone. I get how all that works, but I'd like to have seen a little bit more kind of pictures of how that particular thing looked. Then the next one, the kind of like more purpley, pinky toned one, again, it leans a lot more warm on the model itself than it does in the picture, but that may just be like whatever way they've photographed it. And then the deepest one, again, I will say that looks a little bit more true to the component. It's very, very pretty, and like I said, if you like his liquid lipsticks and you like those shades, you'll have a good time. I think they are quite interesting shades for like a Siren collection. He didn't go with necessarily the like expected. I think maybe the most expected would have been maybe the purpley toned one, but I don't know, there's so many brands who have done this already that it's kind of like, ooh, you're a bit late to the game on this one. So for me, it's just not it, and that's totally fine. When I put it to you guys, 32% of you ended up loving the palette, 20% of you said that you were sick of mermaid themes. Same guys, same. When I showed you the liquid lipsticks, 30% of you loved it, while 26% of you said that you like some of these. And then, I mean, this is to me a very, very strange one, and I get that a lot of people really like this because, you know, Care Bears, it's nostalgic, you know, who doesn't love things from their past? I mean, there's so many things like from my past that I'd love to see collections of, but what a strange one to collab with, SHEGLAM and Care Bears. It feels like it's a little bit against the ethos of Care Bears, considering, you know, SHEGLAM and Shein is like fast beauty and fast fashion. It does not feel very caring towards the environment, etc. But maybe that's the new Care Bears. Sometimes Care Bears. Anyways, you have the whole collection for $54.99, but there's a palette for $9.99. There's 3 different Cuddle Time blushes in 3 shades. There's Tickled Pink, Fabulous, and Thrill Seeker. They're $5.49 each. There's the Share a Smile lip set for $10.99. There's the Sweet Wishes colored eyeliner in 3 shades. Sweet as Sugar, True Heart, and Lucky Day, $3.99 each. And the Catch Some Fun highlighting puff, Sparkle Forever. And you know it's cool because they're using the number 4 rather than the word forever. And that's retailing for $4.99. I mean, the whole collection, if you get it all together, you, by the way, get that very strange sort of a mirror on there, and it's gonna look lovely when you first get it. You're gonna be like, oh my god, it's so lovely. But the fabric on that, lads, can we be 100% honest? That is not gonna wear well. It's gonna get dirty, it's gonna get grubby, and I don't even know how you would clean that. It just seems like a little bit of a nightmare to me. But there's a lot in it, to be fair, and yeah, I mean, it's $54.99, so it doesn't exactly break the bank. The eyeshadow palette, I mean, again, they've gone with that fuzzy sort of like lining, which reminds me of, you know, the diaries you used to get as a kid. I'm surprised they haven't put like a little lock on it a la P. Louise, as she's done with a lot of her palettes. The colours themselves, I mean, I kind of get it. Like, I get that a lot of these correspond to existing Care Bears. They of course have the little shapes. If you told me this was from I Heart Revolution, I wouldn't be that surprised. I mean, it's not wildly expensive, so I'm not going to get annoyed with them. What I will say though is that these swatches just look so flat and uninspiring. Like, I was trying to figure out where that green shade was, and it just seems it's like a really sheer shimmer, almost like a topper. A lot of those shades kind of seem to be that way. I wouldn't know what sort of a look I would like do with that. It just seems quite disjointed to me, but I mean, to each their own. I personally wouldn't get it. The thing that I do think is quite cute are those blushes, because you know me, I'm a bit of a blush hoe. But again, the packaging just kind of makes me a little bit anxious. It feels like almost a bit of a jump when you see those like light shades of Fabulous and Thrill Seeker and then Tickled Pink. Now, I'm very, very glad that they have Tickled Pink because I think that'll look beautiful on a deeper skin tone, but I would have liked if they'd had just one extra deeper shade in there to really facilitate a deeper skin tone, because even when you're looking on the model, like, it looks like sort of a sunburn on fairer skin, and it does look beautiful, but look at how gorgeous it looks on a deeper skin tone. That is absolutely stunning. Like, that's what these shades are made for. And when you look at that more like hot pink, the Fabulous, again, it does look quite good across all skin tones, but I would say it leans that little bit more towards those who are pale. And then the orangey one, Thrill Seeker, doesn't really show up on deeper skin at all, so they could have really gone with a beautiful purple, like a really nice deep purple. I think that's what they're kind of missing there. So to be a little bit more inclusive, I would have liked to have seen like one more deep shade so that people would would have had like a little bit more options. But again, just down to the packaging, it kind of irks me. But I know that I'm probably in the minority here. Then that kind of lip set, I am genuinely confused by. It comes with this little kind of bag of the Care Bear, who looks shocked, I guess, that he's involved in this. He did not see this happening. They, by the way, have like 2 non-sticky mats and there's a high shine gloss. But the mats themselves look very, very similar. One is a little bit more cool toned than the other. But when you see them swatched on the arm itself, there is very little difference. Again, this is one of those things that it may be like whatever way it interacts with your undertones, but it just seemed strange to me. Why have 2? Why not just do 1? Like 1 liquid lip and a gloss. It seemed a smidgen unnecessary to me. Then the liners, I don't even know how to verbalize this, but that furry fuzzy thing, it makes it look like Snuffleupagus. And I know I'm mixing up my genres here. I'm bringing in Sesame Street, but it makes it look like they shaved him and just they couldn't afford to put it on the entire pen. Not that I'm telling you that it would have been better if they did that, but it's just really weird. I will say the way that they've presented kind of the swatches on the eye, they look pretty nice, pretty pigmented. They're $3.99, so you're not expecting a huge amount. I don't hate the way that the end product looks, as in how it operates on the eye. It's the actual component itself that is kind of making me twitch ever so slightly. And the last thing that they have is that really weird powder puff. Now, I'm of an age where you used to get like things like this in a magazine and you'd like puff it all over your body and you get all this sparkly stuff. So I kind of get why they're doing that. There's that little bit of nostalgia, but I remember that Too Faced did something like this a while ago with was it the Filthy Rich collection or something, which by the way, oh, terrible, but that was a collaboration. And I remember that not doing that well and seeing it quite a bit in TK Maxx. So there's a lot around this that kind of drives me a little bit nuts, because like hygiene, how do you wash it? Like, how do you not end up with a load of contamination? You're just continually patting yourself with this particular thing. It'll be fine on its first use, but after that, not so much. And that fills me with just a smidgen of anxiety. In all, like, it's relatively inoffensive. Like, it's not wildly expensive, but I just feel like, I don't know, it's not for me. That's totally fine. I think I wasn't as into Care Bears as other people. They just weren't my kind of thing. But I'm finding it hard to like love SHEGLAM in the exact same way as I might have done, simply because I'm like, oh, you're kind of doing too much, lads. Like, it's just, it's too much in my opinion. But when I put it to you guys, the palette didn't do great. 8% if you loved it, 20% said that you do not like the fuzzy packaging. I'm with you. My sensory issues will not allow me to deal with that. The blushes did okay, 22% if you loved it. Again, 16% said that you can't deal with the packaging. When I showed you the Smile lip set, 10% if you loved it, 24% said the lipsticks are too similar. When I showed you the eyeliners, 15% if you loved it. And I can't stop giggling at the consistent theme is like the packaging is off, because 28% of you ended up hating the packaging. And then finally, when I showed you the highlighting puff, 10% of you loved it and 28% of you said this is odd. Agreed. And honestly, this next one, I'm gonna steal Angelica Nyqvist's phrase, who asked for this? Because in the heels of them having just done a Nightmare Before Christmas collab, they haven't even let people's packages really arrive yet, and they decided, hey, we're doing a part 2. Part of what really annoys me about this is that Melt obviously knew that their part 2 was coming, and they didn't outline that to people. And I feel like people would have been better able to make an informed decision around their purchases if they had known that. But I think that what they did was quite strategic, and oh, don't hate me, but I feel like they put the uglier set out first and then had the prettier set for after, so that people would end up buying the second one because they're like, oh, I like this better. I don't feel like this is a good move on their part. Now, they had this sort of an early access release for some people. You could get the full collection, just the full collection, for $165, and it was worth $233. And they also had this Christmas Town duo brush set, so you got 2 brushes and they're $58. You know my feelings on brush duo sets. It's all very strange. But as I sat down to film, it's been outlined that actually they'll be starting to sell on some of these singularly. So you can still obviously buy the full collection if you wanted to, but you can get the Christmas Town palette for $60. I also found a video of some swatches and I'm going to play that for you guys now because it does look pretty good, pretty pigmented. There's a bit of sparkle there, and I'm going to stick with what I said before. I feel like their shimmers do not warrant their price tag. Like shimmers, yes, are a little bit more expensive to manufacture than mattes, but there's just doesn't really appeal to me. I definitely have cheaper brands that operate in a very similar way, but that's $60 for like 10 pans. That's quite expensive. If you haven't got the previous collection, you could also kind of bundle the two palettes together. It's the Nightmare palette bundle for $99. They have a lipstick. It's the How Jolly Frost lipstick and it's a green shade. That's retailing for $24. It's a much more cool toned green than the one they had in the Beetlejuice collection. There's more of a blue metallic hint to it than what we would have seen previously. It's definitely that little bit more interesting, and it's more kind of in line with what we would have seen from Melt in the past, in my opinion. But they also have the Shot Down Ultra Matte lipstick, and that's more of like a kind of a deep plummy purple. I think that's very, very interesting. Again, it's a little bit more cool toned. I feel like the packaging on this looks a little bit more interesting. Again, however, it's plastic, so I feel like the components themselves aren't that expensive, so you know that you're just paying for the intellectual property and the fact that it is Melt Cosmetics. They have also added in the Deadly Nightshade Cream Blush Light and Highlight Duo. That's retailing for $42. That's the same price as the highlighter that they had from the previous collection that came out 2 weeks ago. I know, hard to believe. I'm going to say exactly what I said before. I get a bit frustrated when they do things like this because this isn't going to be inclusive. There are people of many different walks of life who enjoy Nightmare Before Christmas, but this sort of a collection is only going to suit a couple of them. And don't fool yourselves into thinking that you're going to use this as an eyeshadow. We both know that you will not. The thing that I do think is quite interesting are their glitter eye gels. So there's one in the shade Zero, which is so cute because it has a little dog in the packaging. That's $24. And then there's Making Christmas, which is also $24. I just think they are part of what like steals the show, frankly. And I kind of felt like the gel liners from the previous collection were that little bit more interesting as well. Like, I do find that very, very interesting. Now, I'd like to know, are these bio glitters? Because if you don't know, the EU is bringing in a thing basically kind of saying no more plastic glitters because the environment. It's like, well, dude, there's already microplastics and basically everything. We have destroyed the planet. Enjoy. Sorry, that went a little bit more dark than I necessarily intended it. But I would like to know, is it going to be biodegradable or is it just standard like plastic? And how fine is the glitter? I would imagine it would have to be quite fine if it's going onto the eyes because it would have to be eye safe or they're going to get into trouble. And then their Christmas Town bag, which has Zero the dog on it. It's adorable. It's $35. I prefer this to the previous bag. It's a lot more simple, but I do think it's much more cute. Look, I'll say what I said before. I feel like they really were a little bit duplicitous with people by not being upfront and saying there was a second part to the collection, because now there will be people who'll go off and buy this second one, but they'll have to pay the shipping fees twice, the customs twice, or people have bought the first collection and are now looking at the second collection and kind of going, I wouldn't have bought that if I knew that this was actually coming. So I feel like that's a little bit shit in my opinion, but again, that's just me. Now, as I put it to you guys, I only had the picture of the full collections, and I'll be frank, I don't feel like polling the rest of it. I'm kind of bored of Melt Cosmetics at this point. I know, don't come for me. But 30% of you loved the collection, 34% said that you wish that they had told us about this before, which I agree with. I'm actually surprised it's not higher. Then when I showed you the brush set, 11% of you loved it, 33% said not for me, 31% said too expensive, and 24% said that you don't like brush duos. And I had a few people saying, I wish you had another option, which was, you know, I wish that I had known there was a part 2, but lads, I felt like 4 options. It was a lot. I can't have 5 or 6 options. It's going to get unwieldy at that point. Then we have Lime Crime, and I'll be honest lads, I haven't heard from them in like a million years. I feel like it's a bit of a surprise that they still kind of exist. Oh, does that mean to say? It probably is. Anyways, this is their Dark Rain collection, and it consists of the Venus XS Majestic Muse eyeshadow palette for €19.95. There's the Stardust Liquid Luster eyeshadow that comes in 2 shades. They're sold separately. They're €13.95 each. There's the Wet Cherry Lip Gloss Duo Crushed Gems for €19.95, and there's the Velveteen's Lip Trio in Majestic Mattes for €28.95. They're not doing any sort of a bundle deal on this. You have to buy them all separately, but I feel like year by year, Lime Crime is doing a more and more dialed back holiday version of their releases. I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago they did like 3 4-pan eyeshadow palettes. I think I have them, and then the next year it was like 2, and now it's 1. So next year, based upon that math, it'll be 0. This is very blah to me. There's nothing that really stands out. Like, if we look at the eyeshadow palette, I just don't think there's anything to warrant that sort of a price tag. I think the major money that they're spending here is down to the packaging itself, because the shades themselves, there's 2 mattes. There's one that looks like it's sort of a satin and one that's like a shimmer. They're not going to be wildly expensive to make. It just feels like Lime Crime had their time and they're really struggling to kind of still be relevant and consistent. And I get that they're trying to kind of keep with that Venus thing because that was like the most popular thing for them. But ooh, it just ain't it. Then the liquid shadows, there's something very like 2008 about them. Like, I've seen them before, I didn't care about them then, I don't really care about them now. They come in the shades Moonlit and Twilight, and they're quite basic. Like, they look okay on the eyes. Like, if I look at Moonlit, like, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But I don't know if I'd pay like €14 for that. It just seems a bit excessive. I definitely could get eyeshadows in my collection that are from cheaper brands that do the exact same thing. I mean, I'm just saying. And even the shade Twilight, that's more like black and has some sparkles in it. The sparkles aren't that noticeable, particularly when they're on the eye. So it feels a little bit like, oh, a letdown, which is kind of sucky. Like, it feels like if I was to compare that to the black shimmery matte in, say, the P. Louise, I guess, stack 'em ups. Who knows what they're actually called? I think it's Butterfly or something. I'd go for the P. Louise. I know we're not talking about the same formula. That's a powder and this is the liquid, but it just feels very strange. Then they have, of course, their lip gloss. It's all very generic, really, at this point. Nothing wildly interesting to me. I will say that they look really, really pretty on the lip. Like, that's kind of sold me. I say kind of. I'm not going to go off and get them because I know I would have stuff that dupes them. But that's obviously the stuff that they would be really, really well known for, is like their lip stuff. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't have more of these, or that they're not selling them separately. Then the final thing that they have are their Velveteens and their Majestic Mattes. And again, surprised that they're not selling them separately. So there's Feelings, which is a red sort of a tone. There's Forbidden, which is much more of like a neutral brown, and Rebellion, which is a black. I like all of those. Like, I would wear all of those. I think they're really, really interesting. However, I've had all of these shades, or versions of these shades, from Lime Crime to date. Like, you can shop through their back catalogue and you'll get stuff like this, but just under different names. So it all feels a little bit recycled at this point, and as though they've maybe lost inspiration, which, you know, fair. But for me, just this collection, I almost swiped past it. I saw it on Point Click Vibes Instagram, and I was like, oh wait, oh my god, Lime Crime, because Lime Crime used to really, really interest me, and I just don't know what it is, but they've really like fallen off in terms of popularity. And I'd love to know what you guys think. Why do you think that is? I know that Robert Welch did a video on that a while ago, and I think he has hit on quite a few of the points, but it feels like almost like a mass consensus that everyone went, we're not interested in this anymore. I just find that fascinating from like a psychology point of view, but that's just me. Anyways, I don't know what you guys think of it yet because I haven't actually put the pictures to you guys, but you'll see the stats right now. This is made by Mitchell, and it looks like he's coming out with a new Blursh case. I know, I hate that he calls it Blursh 2. Let us not kind of get obsessed about it too much. This is apparently to celebrate their 3rd birthday, and it's this new Blursh case. As I'm filming, I don't know how much it is, and I have very very vague photos. Hopefully I've gotten some more sense then. I like this. I like the pinky toned. Well, it's more like lilac-y toned, and there's a deep purple in there. How fabulous. And then the more orangey tones. Now, do I actually need this? I absolutely do not. I have the blush palettes from Blend Bunny, so I feel like I could dupe out quite a bit of this. However, I have found that Made by Mitchell seems to be making quite a bit of like inroads in terms of MUAs. They really appreciate the formula, they appreciate the diversity of the shades, and I feel like this sort of a format is going to be really, really helpful for quite a few MUAs, and maybe they'll have to depot it from the book because I can't see people as necessarily wandering around with the book when going from client to client. But I think it is quite interesting. There's definitely some fabulous shades in there. This is more built for an MUA because there's no way that the person who is like wearing the shade Pinkles, what a strange name, there's no way that the person who's wearing Pinkles is also going to be wearing Beetroot Smoothie unless they're really amazing at blending out these particular shades. I can't see it, but I think that's definitely what he's doing. He's just making stuff for MUAs, and I got to appreciate that. He's doing really well. Now, I do have an affiliate link with him. By the way, I do have affiliate links all down below. Anything that has an asterisk next to it is an affiliate link. It's all detailed within the description box, but hey, you know me, I like to be transparent. However, if you're not in the UK, don't bother buying it through Made by Mitchell. You're better off getting it through Beauty Bay to not have to deal with customs, etc. I do like this. I'm not going to get it though, but I do think it's quite interesting, and I suspect that he'll make all of these shades as well as singles sometime down the line, particularly if this is quite popular. Then the very last thing that we're talking about is Arttitude Cosmetics, and they have a new launch on November 2nd, and there's a lot of stuff in this. So we're going to talk first about their new styles of half lash, and they come with the styles Main Character and Famous. Can I just say, as a glasses wearer, I am very excited about this because for me, half lashes are just A, very easy to apply, B, very comfortable, and C, usually work incredibly well with glasses. And these ones look really nice. I appreciate that she has one pair. I can't tell which one is which. There's one pair that's definitely more dramatic than the other. You can really see that when they're on the eye. Absolutely stunning. Now, I will say I have Arttitude Cosmetics lashes, and I don't have these ones, obviously, but I have a few of their previous lashes, and I really enjoy the quality. They're really great, so I am definitely interested in these. By the way, I am an affiliate. I do make a commission if you buy using my code and my link. My code is Teresa10. It will get you 10% off, and I will make a 10% commission on that. Let us be very upfront on it. I will say though, I am looking at those half lashes. The next thing that I'm looking at are these multi-chrome pigments, and they come in the shades Leaves, Freedom, and Equinox. So these are very like autumnal shades, and here's the other thing, slight side story, but this was kind of meant to come a little bit earlier, but because of all of the stuff that's happening globally. Rux, who is the owner of Arttitude Cosmetics, is such a wonderful and very empathetic person. She was finding it very difficult to kind of celebrate a launch and kind of see all of that happening at the same time. So she kind of like prioritized her mental health, rightly so, and kind of put this off for a little bit. So in case you're wondering why coming into November we're still doing autumn stuff, this is what the story is. However, I feel this transitions really well, and the swatches are stunning. They're so cute. I didn't get these yet, but I will buy them. I think they look very pretty. I think particularly that purple to greeny shade is very interesting. Then the next thing, I am for sure gonna get these. These are the new silicone applicators. If you don't know my love of silicone applicators, where have you even been? So if I'm not using my fingers to put on multi-chromes or shimmers, sometimes I don't want to, I will use applicators like the ones I have from NYX. I have one from Sigma, but look at these ones that Rux has come out with. There's some really interesting shapes to them. Like there's one that's like even like made as like a liner, which, shut up, so interested in them. She's also put together a video to show kind of the difference between like just swatching with a brush, like applying it with a general flat brush, which is normally what you would use to pack on color, and then applying it with this applicator. And the difference I mean, it's part of why I love these anyway. So do I need these? No, but I generally love these silicone applicators, so it's my kind of thing. Then today, as I'm filming, she just kind of announced that she's coming out with these multi-chrome pressed highlighters. Now, she was in a little bit of a bind. If you're watching her stories, she was kind of trying to figure out which one she would go for, because one was way more expensive and one was a bit more affordable. Have a little guess as to which one is a bit more affordable and which one was more expensive. So the multi-chromes she did end up going with were in the shades Transition, which is a gold, orange and green multi-chrome. Obviously that's going to be the one that costs that little bit more to formulate, and there's Dimension, which has a more purple shift, and they look absolutely beautiful. And I love again that she's swatched this across a couple of different skin tones. They're just so pretty. I'd happily have both of these. Now, I don't know what the story is in terms of prices, but she generally keeps the prices down, and I've always appreciated that about Rooks. Like, that's a lot for an indie brand to try and keep the costs down. But yeah, I think that's very interesting. Now, as I'm filming, she hasn't released pictures of the outside of the palette. However, I had a little chat with her because we've been discussing when she's coming out with this, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't leaking anything like ahead of time or whatever, because major respect to her. She's like a one-woman show and she's trying to get it all done. But she did say that I can show you the outside of the palette and I can swatch 2 shades. So I'm very excited about this. This is the outside of the palette. So it's the same as kind of like what she had done with the Man-Eater palette. We have that fabulous sort of a cover for the palette. I mean, it makes sense to kind of keep it because, I mean, that's an expense for a brand. And then you take it out like that and look, it's beautiful. So she's definitely kind of found a little bit more of her style as she did with the Man-Eater. This is called Abscission. So it's all about, you know, the changes of colours of leaves, etc. So I'm opening it now and I'm having a little look at it again. By the way, I will have a video coming very soon. I do have a lot on my plate at the moment, so like bear with me. It may not be as soon as I would like, but we will get there. Oh, she's beautiful. I haven't played with it yet, FYI. I've been very naughty. So I'm going to take 2 shades and show them to you. Oh, but which ones should I show you? Okay. Because Rook said I could show you whichever ones I wanted. These. Aren't they stunning? So we have like more of a greeny shade here. There we go. It's focused. And then this shade. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. I'm going to swatch it now on the back of my hand. It goes and goes and goes. Same. I mean, look at that. They're so beautiful. You can see the autumnal vibes. Now, bearing in mind, I have a load of lights on. I have 2 box lights. I have a ring light. I have like a general ceiling light on as well. So you're not going to see shifts in the same way, but I think you can still make out that there's a lot going on here. Absolutely stunning. Don't know what the cost is yet, but it's beautiful. Now, the palette was the only thing that I received in PR. I'm not saying that in a way of being ungrateful. If I'd received the other things, I'd have shown you them in real time as well. But I will say that I do think I'm going to pick up a few of these things as well. Yeah, I think she's done really well, and she's just such a wonderful indie brand, a really lovely person. So I'm all here for it. Now, I don't know what you guys think of it yet. Obviously, I can't have shown you the palette yet. You're seeing it for the first time as you're watching releases and rants. I'll do a little video later on in the day to show it to you guys, the swatches and the outside of the palette. But, you know, you're kind of seeing it first here. But I'll be interested to see what you think of the rest of them. But my gorgeous friends, that's it. I know I try and do my best when Tia isn't here. I know I'm not as much fun, but it is what it is. I do have my favourite comment, and can I be honest, I was a little bit naughty. I actually chose 2 because I'm greedy. And They're both Ryanair themed. So Mink G8178 said, just imagining a Revolution by Ryanair collection with little baggies of lip gloss, mini multi-use pencils for lips, eyes, cheeks, but you have to pay extra if you want them supplied sharpened. That feels peak Ryanair to me. And then FJUE then said, the PR package of Ryanair makeup would for sure come with a scratch card. Oh hells yeah, it would. You can't get onto one of those planes without them kind of going, do you want a scratch card? But actually I would expect the finished product, but you'll have to get the package yourself. Yeah, and it's going to be in a really like annoying location to get to. You have to walk a mile to get through it. So yeah, it all tracks. Anyways, my gorgeous friends, that is it. That is the end of this week's releases and rants. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Do please like, comment and subscribe. All of those things help this teeny tiny channel grow, and I am trying to do that. And do please share, because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case wrap it up, don't be gross. But that's it, that's the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.